Hey everyone, it's Brooke. Welcome back to my channel. This is time for my second weekly wrap-up. My reading is definitely slowing down. I am under a lot of stress right now, both with a large work project and the fact that we are readying our house to put on the market and sell it and buy another house. So those things are just taking over my life, taking over my brain, and I'm just so exhausted that I'm finding it a little bit hard to get into books right now. So I've been watching some TV. Mozart in the Jungle's 4th season was just released. If you don't watch Mozart in the Jungle, I would love it if you gave it a try. I know it's weird and quirky, and it's this sort of odd comedy that can feel a little on the wacky side, but I just find it so charming, and it makes me happy, and yeah, I love it. I love it. Anyway, so the last book I really sped through, and it might be, I don't even know, like the most engaged I've been in a book for like a long time. I don't even know that I can remember the last time I just so dedicatedly sat down after work every day to read a book. Was Mistborn. You guys knew I was reading this, so this is the first book, The Final Empire, in the Mistborn trilogy. This is in the Tortine re-release covers they did a couple of years ago. They're nice floppy paperbacks. So this is the edition I wanted to read. But again, like Monday through Thursday of the week I was reading this, I just came home and every day read close to like 100 pages. And then on Thursday afternoon, I just sat down and said, you know, I'm going to finish this right now, and I did. And that sort of escapism is definitely something that I was craving, and I just enjoyed that. Those 4 days were so much. Because I very rarely read after work. I mean, maybe 20, 30 pages a day. So this was a whole other level of reading for me. And I just found the story so compelling, so page-turning. I enjoy the characters, Kelsier and Vin, especially, just so much. I cared about what happened to them. I loved the world that Brandon Sanderson built. I loved sort of the complexity of the characters and how they're all kind of struggling with this sort of time of change within the society and their place within the society. I liked that Vin got to be this 16, 17-year-old heroine who is still really flawed and learning and making mistakes. And the same with Kelsier, who is like 35 and still learning and flawed and making mistakes. Even like there is definitely some religious undertones to this book. Of course, because we all know Brandon Sanderson is Mormon and grew up in the Mormon church. But none of that bothered me. It was done in an interesting way, not like, it didn't feel preachy to me. And I really shipped Vin and Ellen just so much. I don't know if I'm saying their names right. That's how I say them in my head. So I really enjoyed that. I thought it made a lot of sense for kind of this young, budding romance. And I enjoyed it. That's not to say that I do not have criticisms of this. I think kind of my lesser criticism is that the secondary and tertiary characters should have been fleshed out more. I found a lot of the kind of thieving crew that Kelsier had put together hard to distinguish from one another. They felt very similar, and I'm not sure I even got entirely there at the end of like the 660 pages. So there was definitely some flaws there. But my number one flaw, and it is a huge flaw, lost a whole star on its own, is the fact that there just don't appear to be women in this world, or Brandon Sanderson just decided that he didn't care about them. And it bothered me so much. Vin is like the only main female character. There's a whole bunch of other male characters she's with. I mean, the whole team is male except for her. The only other women we get, one of them is dead. And the other couple of female characters that have a little bit of airtime are like mean nobility women. It just, there are just, I wanted Vin as this young woman to have women surrounding her, and she didn't, and that's unfortunate and a clear sign that a man wrote it. So, big bummer there. But that aside, I was completely engaged with this story, and I just hope that as it goes on, more women get roles to play. So that's how I felt about Mistborn. And then I didn't read anything like that Friday, but Saturday I sat down and got through Ijeoma Oluo's So You Want to Talk About Race. This is nonfiction. It just came out at the end of January. Ijeoma Oluo is, I follow her on Twitter. That's really where I know her from. She does a lot of essay writing about race. If you follow, you should follow her on Twitter. Her along with Morgan Jerkins, who I talked about in the last video. You should follow both of them on Twitter. This is very much just her going through like her own personal experiences and also using statistics and like data and definitions and teaching how to talk about race and the ways that it's affected her life. And it's very conversational in tone, but it's very serious in tone as well. And I think it's a good balance between like numbers and data and like anecdotal sort of stories. It is pretty much 101 level. Like if you are deeply entrenched in talk of race and learning about race and how we deal with race and different intersectionalities of identity, like I don't know that you're necessarily going to find anything wholly new here. There was a couple of places where I was confronted with something that I hadn't really thought about before, which was nice. And so it just kind of depends on like your level of knowledge and understanding at this point, how much you're going to take from this. But if you want, I think for me personally, who's been reading a lot of this stuff for a while now, I think this works best for me to put in the hands of people I know who need more work. So like my husband's going to read this now because he is in the head of a diversity and inclusion committee at his firm, and he is searching for books like this to be able to give and recommend to his coworkers. So I think it's great for that. I think it's great for someone who you're struggling to have a conversation with. So maybe, here's someone who is very eloquently and intelligently talking about things like, what is racism? What is intersectionality? What is the school to prison pipeline? What is privilege? Why can't I say the N-word? These kinds of topics. You can put it in someone's hands and say, read this, and then let's discuss this afterwards. I think it's a great tool for that. So I thought it was superbly done. The only fault I really had with this is I felt like maybe it was pushed out the door too quickly, because I feel like there's a lot of editing mistakes in this, and so I wonder if it got rushed at the end, which is unfortunate because like there are at least a handful of glaring editorial mistakes in here that I just rarely see in books. So just whole words left out. It was not, it needed more eyes on it, I think, and I think maybe so it felt a little rushed there, but that's not really a problem with the writing in the book and what you get from it. It's just a nitpicky editorial thing. But yeah, I read it basically in one sitting. It's less than 250 pages, so I highly recommend you get your hands on this if you think that it could be a useful tool in your life. Other than that was pretty much the only reading I did that week. I have not done very much reading since. We'll see what the next week's wrap up will have. I might just end up chit-chatting about my life stresses. Who knows? Anyway, guys, bye.